Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Justina and here I like to make, create, and inspire fun art things with you through my DIYs. As you see by today's title or by clicking on today's video, I have all new Valentine's DIY for you. This one was pretty much trial and error and I really had to work hard on it, and at the end it still came out pretty decent and I'm super excited to share it with you. If you are new here and you haven't yet subscribed, I hope you do that today. All you have to do is click on that big red subscribe button down below. It is totally free, but don't forget to click on the bell notification so that YouTube can always notify you every time I upload a new video. Plus, we would love for you to be part of our virtual art family here. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for clicking on today's video. I do appreciate each and every one of you, but don't forget to do all the YouTube things down below, like, comment, and share to at least one friend. It really does help out my channel. Now, with all that being said, let's just jump right into it and let's art today. Dollar Tree has a brand new flower pot section and they are not missing out on any details. When I saw this flower pot, I knew I had to take it home. It is $1.25 and it is a pretty decent sized flower pot, but this one reminded me of an ice cream cone, so that is what we are going to make today. Now, to start off with, I did have to mix a few different colors in my chalk paint to come up with this really pretty tan that reminded me of an ice cream cone. It was vintage mustard, some sheepskin, and also some brown paint mixed all together, and I really just like the hue of this. Now, you can always spray paint your flower pot. The plastic does take spray paint really well, but where I'm living at, it's still really cold, so I wanted to paint mine. Next, I wanted my cone to have this strawberry drizzle on the top of it, so I just took some red acrylic paint and I'm just making these squiggly lines and then filling it in with the paint. It is that simple. I did have to do a couple of coats to make sure that it was nice and opaque. Now, you can always paint yours a brown color to have a chocolate drizzle. I think that would be really awesome too. I might have to create another one later on, but I just like the strawberry one. Now, I will set that to the side to dry completely. Here's how it looks once it was completely dry, and I just absolutely love it. Now it's time to actually make the ice cream portion of our ice cream cone, and all you're going to need is one pool noodle. Depending on how big of your ice cream scoop you want is depending on how many pool noodles you might need, but I only needed one. I then took my pool noodle and I'm going to cut it completely in half. You want to be very careful. I had to use an X-Acto knife, and like I said, I'm just cutting it completely in half. To really make sure that we have even cuts, I did have to cut one side first, then I pulled open the pool noodle and then I cut the other side. That way I know that I try to make it as evenly as possible. Here are the two cut halves of our pool noodle. Now, with the one half, I did place the flower pot back on the table to give me an idea of how much pool noodle I'm going to need. So as you see here, I'm bending the pool noodle to look like a circle, and just with my finger, I'm finding the best placement. That way I know exactly where to cut the rest of the pool noodle off so that we can make our first scoop. So I once again took an X-Acto knife, and where my finger is, I did cut a little bit above it just in case I made a mistake. Next, I'm taking my X-Acto knife and I'm cutting it on a diagonal, and that way it can lay flat on top of the other side. So as you saw there, I'm trying to find the best placement, flipped the pool noodle over and did the exact same thing. That way when I connect the two ends, it's really flat and it looks like one continuing piece. Then I'm taking some duct tape and wrapping it around the pool noodle. This will hold it into place until I add it to our ice cream cone. I did have to add a couple pieces just to make sure it doesn't pop open. I did place my pool noodle back on top of my flower pot just to make sure that I had the correct measurements, and that way I can see what size of my next scoop on top of my first scoop will be, and I will continue doing the exact same thing. I did make 4 different types of pool noodles, as you will see here. Now, as you get smaller with your scoops, they will be harder to manipulate, but you just have to press down firmly to make the shape that you want to. Now that I have all 4 of my scoops, I wanted to add them on top of my flower pot so I have an idea of what it looks like, and here's how it looks thus far. Now I wanted to add all of the scoops together so that they can hold one another into place. So I am once again going to add some duct tape onto the inside of the pool noodles. That way we don't see it on the outside, and they will hold each other into place so that our ice cream portion is separate from the ice cream cone. Once again, you want to use duct tape because if you use a hot glue gun, it has the tendency to melt the pool noodle plastic. So I advise using some duct tape. Now for the top of my ice cream cone, if you ever had a soft served ice cream, you know it has that little swoop at the top, and I wanted to recreate that. So I just used another piece of a pool noodle and folded it in half to make this little loop. Now this one did not make the final cut. I did not film it, but I did have to go back and fix it because this swoop right here was a little bit too big. But I do change it up later. I just didn't film it. Next, I have some regular school glue that I'm adding to a cup with some water. I wanted to make this little runny paste so I can add some tissue paper right on top of it. And when I say tissue paper, I'm actually using some tissue paper, some toilet paper. It's just a crafting one that I have. As you see here, I'm just mixing up the water and the school glue together until it's nice and well incorporated. Next, I'm just taking some TP and I'm going to lay it right on top of my ice cream. Now, if you have seen my mushroom video, I did the same exact thing. I'm doing this so that each pool noodle is connected together and that it looks like one cohesive piece. Now, as you see here, I was having some difficulties, but I just continued on until everything was covered. I did have to make a couple pieces fit in the cracks. You can always fill that up with tape if needed to be. But once again, this is a personal preference. You can always skip this part and go on to the next part, which I will show you here soon. However, I just wanted to show you I did cover mine in tissue paper. Here is how my ice cream portion of our ice cream cone looks like after I have all of the tissue paper on and glued down. This does take a little while for it to completely dry, but once again, it's a personal preference. Next, I'm just taking some white chalk paint and I'm painting the whole entire thing. That way I don't see any of that green pool noodle showing through on our final project. Now, Dollar Tree does carry all different types of colored pool noodles, and I'm sure I've seen white ones there, so if you have a white one, you don't necessarily need this step. Once my paint had time to dry, it is now time to make the ice cream look more like ice cream. I'm going to use my lightweight spackling, but I do suggest maybe using caulk instead because this was really hard to really get nice and smooth. I think this was the downfall of the headache that was caused with this DIY. I still love the outcome, but it would have saved me a lot of trouble if I just used caulk. So if you're going to recreate this, I suggest using caulk. I just took a bunch of it with a popsicle stick and try to smooth it out to the best of my ability. This does take quite some time, and you really want to take your time so that you can get all of those bumps off. This is how my ice cream looks after it was completely dry. Another suggestion I wish I did for myself was to sand this down before painting. So if you do exactly how I do, I suggest sanding it down so that it looks more smoothly. Now, as you see here, I am painting my ice cream in this pastel pink color, and I do have to give it multiple coats, but this isn't the final color after we finish. I started going downhill from here, but I learned from my mistakes and I really want to make a second one. After I have the whole thing covered, I did let it dry completely before adding anything else onto it. Now, after my paint was completely dry, I wanted my ice cream to have a strawberry drizzle all over it. So I took some Elmer's glue and some red acrylic paint and I added them together. Normally I use Mod Podge, but for some reason I'm just using Elmer's glue. That way it looks more like a drizzle. And I mixed those two together really well so it was well incorporated. I then started adding it to my ice cream, and I want to give you a heads up. This did not turn out the way I wanted it to be. Now, as you see here, I have my popsicle stick and I'm going to add it onto my ice cream. And you saw some hesitation at first because I wasn't too sure how I was going to do this. So I was like, oh, I'll just add it right onto my ice cream and let it drip down, and that would give it a nice cool effect, like the drizzle was dripping down the ice cream cone. But as I was adding more and more to it, it was looking more like a crime scene. I started to notice on the second layer that when I was adding it, I was like, this looks more like blood. Definitely not what I was going for, but I just continue adding it until I had to take a step back and try to figure out how I was going to fix it. So the best solution that I came up with was to mix more of the red paint with the Elmer's glue and then just apply it on like regular paint. That way the whole thing will have a nice little sheen, and also it will be one solid color. So I continue adding that all over my ice cream to get this nice shiny red color. Now it's time to decorate my ice cream topping so that we can cover some of that mess that I have created. I have some of these wooden conversation hearts. I purchased these from Amazon. I believe 300 came in a pack for really a decent amount of price. Now, I didn't want to show the conversation words, so I am hot gluing the word side down onto my ice cream cone. I'm using all different types of colors and just placing those conversation hearts all over my ice cream cone. I did use my hot glue gun to attach everything down together. Now, I also used some puffy paint to use as sprinkles. For some reason, I could not find that footage anywhere, but I will show you a close-up. As you see here, I just used puffy paint, made these little lines, and that is our sprinkles. The last thing I needed to do or wanted to do was add some sort of contrast in between each layer of ice cream. So I'm adding some white chalk paint in between to make it look like there's vanilla ice cream in between each layer. And once that had time to dry, that completes our DIY. Here is how our ice cream cone turned out. Now, even with all of the headaches that I did for myself, I still absolutely loved how it turned out, and I really want to make a second one using the tips and tricks that I shared with you all. Now, all I did was add the ice cream top right onto the ice cream cone. That is because I'm going to use mine later to put some stuff inside the little cone. This would be a really cute gift if you have all types of Valentine's Day goodies you can put inside of the ice cream cone, and whoever you give it to can just pop it off and use it as a little bucket. But I am going to use it for some decor pieces in the future. I would love to know what you think about this DIY down in the comment section below. And while you are down there, I do have a question. Do you like shorter videos with one DIY or longer videos with multiple DIYs in the video? Or do you like both? Either way, I would love to know down in the comment section below. Remember, friends, if you are new here and you haven't yet subscribed, I hope you do that today. All you have to do is click on that big red subscribe button down below. It is totally free. But don't forget to click on the bell notification so YouTube can always notify you every time I upload a new video. Plus, we would love to have you here, part of our virtual art family. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for clicking on today's video and spending some time with me. I do appreciate each and every one of you being here, but don't forget to do all the YouTubey things down below. Thank you everyone for joining and watching today's video. I really hope you enjoyed, and as always, I will see you in the next one.